Hey everyone, InfiniteCaz here, and welcome back to another video. Today, I will be taking a look at the kits released for the latest Splatoon 3 season, that being the Sizzle season. When these kits were revealed, I think confusion would best sum up my reaction. Why are so many of them mediocre was the overarching thought I had for sure, and that bewilderment somewhat still stands after I have gotten my hands on these weapons. And that's why today, I want to go through all 11 kits, briefly point out what I think works with them, along with what does not, and any changes I would make to them. With that being said, let's get right into it. To begin with, let's quickly discuss what makes a kit good and what can also make it bad. I think the most important thing here is synergy, that is, the main, sub and special weapons all complement each other. Weapons in Splatoon 3 fit along a line of aggression to support, and so do all sub and special weapons. While a good kit doesn't need its components to be all support orientated as an example, in fact, an opposite feeling kit to a main weapon can be really fun. But I think it's a good rule of thumb to have at least one kit per weapon that nicely complements the main's playstyle. In contrast, I'm all for a second kit of a weapon that nicely opposes the first kit, giving an alternate yet still effective playstyle. Kits of a weapon or similar weapons should be able to stand out from one another and be fairly intuitive to pick up, as well as complementing the main weapon, allowing it to be a threat in game. I also want to add, before getting into the kits themselves, that I understand giving a weapon its best possible combo is rarely a good idea, as it can make the other kits, and possibly several sub-weapons, obsolete. So I will try to keep that in mind when selecting different sub and special weapons here. And yes, all of these are my personal opinions, so if you disagree with me, then that's completely fine. And with that being said, let's not waffle any longer and get into these weapons. The Painbrush is a new main weapon for the Sizzle season, and overall I think it's a nice addition to the roster and the brush class. It's simple to understand and seems to be pretty good, even if my experience with it is limited. I think its sub, that being curling bombs, work pretty good on it. Curling bombs mainly are good for increased mobility, and as your run with the main weapon is not as fast as the other brushes, the paint left by your sub gives you an easier time traversing across the map quickly. Its special, Wavebreaker, is actually not that bad, as it applies more passive pressure and can scope out an area, but I personally see it more fitted to backlines, and it's not a special I think lines up with the curling bomb. Personally, I would give this Painbrush Inkjet, which would be the kit of the Emperor Splat Dualies from 2, which was a kit I did really like. The sub and special are both aggressive, and allow you to apply longer and short range pressure much more effectively. The vanilla Octobrush in 2 had Inkjet, so I think that this special on a brush is a good pick, and it would fundamentally allow the Painbrush to have increased aggression, a net positive for it in my opinion. The other new main weapon is the S-Blast 92, a Hydra-type blaster that can shoot at a longer or shorter range, depending if you are in the air or not when firing. I think it's a really cool concept for this weapon, but sadly, its kit lets the main weapon down quite a lot. Sprinkler just has no offensive capability, and while the S-Blast isn't a good painter, it really does need a sub that can support it in fights. Its special is also lacking, being Reef Slider. I think conceptually, it's pretty good, being a tool to quickly push in and apply pressure, but it leaves you too vulnerable to be an effective tool in most cases, especially against backlines who can easily punish you afterwards. This is why I think Torpedo and Booyah Bomb would work great on the S-Blast. Both of these components give forward pressure, and stop you from getting locked out as easily, improving the aggression on this weapon by a lot. However, I will admit it may be a little too strong, so maybe Sprinkler and Booyah Bomb could be pretty good, although not the best case scenario. Overall, I feel like almost anything would work better on the S-Blast than its current kit, so at least, I hope its second kit gets much more effective tools so it can truly be a formidable weapon. I will admit up front that I am less experienced with the Tenterbrella, but honestly, I think the Tentercerella's kit is a good step up from the vanilla. Ink mines, being a more passive sub, work well with the tent to be able to catch potential flankers and deal chip damage if someone tries to aggro you. I also think that the Trizooka is a really fun special, as it gives great offensive and defensive potential to a weapon that does not super consistently kill, and paired with your shield, it can be pretty foreboding to deal with. I'm really not sure what could work best apart from this. Maybe a damaging sub like Torpedo would help you a little more offensively. However, I understand the potential risks of giving a weapon as unique as the tent a more damaging sub. However, I probably would give a sub like Torpedo to a potential third kit, as I think the Sorella fits in nicely enough to be left alone. The custom Dually Squelchers are in an odd spot, where I feel like both its sub and special are decent, but less so paired together. The Dually Squelchers are not a very powerful main weapon, and are also ink hungry, so a more supportive kit can work well. However, chip damage to assist your main weapon, in my opinion, is something this kit needs. Squid Beacons are a powerful sub if used right, and Super Chum is really fun to use. However, neither help out a weapon that can struggle to consistently kill. For my suggestion, I'm going to change this weapon's special, but a case can certainly be made for changing its sub, depending on what you want the custom Dually Squelchers to fundamentally be. I think Squid Beacon and a special like Inkstorm complement each other more. Honestly, Squid Beacon and Wavebreaker would be a fun supportive kit. So this time, I would actually recommend swapping the special weapons of the vanilla and custom Dually Squelcher kits. So the vanilla has Splat Bomb and Super Chum, and the custom has Squid Beacon and Wavebreaker. These kits would synergise with each other much better in general, and the change would help two kits instead of one. An added bonus, I dare say. The light Tetra Dualies are certainly one of those weapons whose underwhelming sub was probably on purpose to not make it too overpowered. This weapon has a really good special in Zipcaster, which gives it a lot of increased mobility and enables a skilled player to be very annoying, and being a distraction is one of the main goals as a Tetra player. In addition, Zipcaster can be annoying to deal with, regardless of what weapon it's paired with. Sprinkler, on the other hand, is basically the opposite of this. Tetras are not that bad a painter, and while you will most likely be dying a lot, meaning a tool to help build your special would be useful, I just think so many better things could exist on it. For example, in an ideal world, I would give the light Tetra's Torpedo a good sub that has aggressive capabilities, that is also distracting and can really help with one-on-one engagements. However, I think this would make the Dark Tetras even more overshadowed, so maybe this could only work if that weapon got a better kit. I do think there are other sub-weapons that could work on the light Tetras, but refraining from a damaging bomb makes the most sense when comparing the two Tetra kits, so I will stick with my initial suggestion of Torpedo and Zipcaster. Honestly, I don't mind this kit. Point Sensor and Kraken Royale work well. Point Sensor for the Splatling synergises decently, and the Kraken gives an alternate form of pressure, making a more distinct kit compared to the Vanilla Heavy. I like when kits have a reason to be played, and the Deco is a more aggressive option with a kit that works pretty well together. I would give this a solid 8 out of 10 and wouldn't change either component. Well done, Nintendo. And here we have another weapon kit I actually like, that being the H3 Nozzlenose D's Splash Wall and Big Bubbler. This is based off the Cherry H3 Nozzlenose from Splatoon 1, and to some extension Splatoon 2. The H3 is a slower weapon, and a more defensive kit pairs really well with a certain playstyle that you can effectively use here. I'm not sure what I can really say, apart from the fact that I wish the vanilla H3 Nozzlenose had a better kit, but this one's good and I wouldn't change it in any way. Now we have a streak going. I'm impressed. Sadly, the streak for weapons that I would not change ends here, as I am not a huge fan of the Rapid Blaster Pro Deco's kit, as I think it's just meh. There's nothing super wrong with it, I guess, and it does synergise pretty well, but in general, I'm not a huge fan of the Angle Shooter or the Killer Whale 5.1. I will say that the Angle Shooter works decently here, but I just think point sensors are better sub in most instances, it being easier to use and having a longer tracking time. I would consider giving the Rapid Pro Deco Big Bubbler to emulate the special of this weapon in Splatoon 2, which I actually really enjoyed. However, I also think Ink Storm could be really great here, for supportive capabilities and area pressure, so to settle with a kit, I think Point Sensor Ink Storm would be great, although Angle Shooter Ink Storm would be just as good, with pros and cons for each sub-weapon, the two being very similar in purpose and playstyle. I'm usually not that enthusiastic about Squid Beacon on most kits, but I think for once the Splatana Wiper Deco benefits from this sub pretty well. My gripe is more when short-ranged weapons like the Neo Sploosh receive this sub, when any kind of bomb would be better. But the Wiper can hold its own enough to be able to justify a more support-orientated sub, and the weapon's good mobility allows for more creative beacon placements than a heavier weapon would be able to do. However, I just hate Tenta missiles as a special. They are insanely disruptive and not fun to fight. Tenta missile spam made Splatoon 2 very unenjoyable, so any weapon in this game with missiles I automatically dislike. Apologies to any Tenta missile players out there. I would sub out Tenta missiles with Super Chom, as I think they both have a similar idea behind them, but Super Chom is much more tolerable to deal with, and can be used a little more offensively. I do know that looking at missiles objectively, it is a good special, but I just can't handle them, and would want them to be removed from Splatoon 3 if the option presented itself, and I think the Wiper Deco would be so much more fair to fight if it had its special changed. So while this is technically a downgrade, I think it's a welcome one, we all could admit. I do really enjoy the Splattershot Nova as a more support-orientated weapon, but to be completely honest, I don't really understand the weapon's second kit. I do think it's possible the sub-weapon was deliberately chosen to be mediocre, but to me, this reduces the Anarchy Nova to a special spammer, as it having inkjet and being a good painter makes it perfect for this. I think this is just sad for a weapon, as I wish that a more aggressive sub-weapon that can apply forward pressure could have been added onto the Nova, seeing as the vanilla has a very supportive sub-weapon with point sensor. I think burst bombs could be really fun with the Splattershot Nova. Having a low damaging, low cost bomb combos nicely with the low damaging main, allowing for chip damage to weaken off or finish off someone who has a higher damaging weapon than you. It can also combo with the inkjet, as using the decrease in an opponent's mobility through the bomb's paint can help you hit your targets easier. I think a contrast between an aggressive kit and a low damaging main could be quite fun, So that's why I think Burst Bomb Inkjet could work great on the Anarchy Nova. I will be honest, in that I saw the big Swig roller as a bit of a joke when it was first added. But after a few buffs, and in my view a much better kit, the big Swig Roller Express is actually quite fun, and can be pretty good if you have enough skill. Inkstorm is a great supportive special that assists your already good paint, but I have an issue with Angle Shooter as its sub. The big Swig Roller is the weakest roller in terms of damage output, and giving both kits a support sub seems a bit counterintuitive to me. I know Angle Shooter does deal damage, 35 to be exact, but I just don't think it's enough. I think Suction Bomb could be a fun sub, as rollers don't often get powerful bombs, and having a more unusual kit would make it stand out more. The Suction Bomb does 30 damage with a splash hit, which can be combined with the 70 max damage for a ground shot to get a splat, or you could just use the bomb to flush people out and apply pressure your main weapon struggles with. So to conclude, I think it would be a positive shift for the big Swig roller. Giving a roller a damaging bomb like this would be new to Splatoon 3, but in no means a bad thing. And that's all 11 weapons, and my thoughts on their kits. My main gripe with the weapons this update is their kits, especially looking at the sub-weapons, are just not very well varied, and in many instances not that well suited for the main weapons. I do not think they are all that bad, and most of these weapons can be used, but honestly, some of them have much better kits than their vanilla counterpart. So while I have complained a bit about these weapons, there's still a lot to appreciate. With that being said, thank you so much for watching until the end, and I hope you have enjoyed. If you could change one of these kits, which would it be? And what would you change it into? Be sure to let me know down in the comments. Please like and subscribe, as it really helps me out. We are nearing 2,000 subs, and I would love to have you here. And with that being said, I will see you all next time. Bye!